Hi, this is Dr. Mike, and this week we wanted to talk to you a little bit about our founding documents that are so important to the early American history and, of course, thereafter. I want to talk to you mainly because we are hearing so much about changing the Constitution that has done well for us all these several hundred years, and go to something that would be less binding. And anytime you make changes like that, of course, you run into problems that will weaken our republic. Remember, we do have a republic and not necessarily a democracy. A democratic republic would be the correct term that you would refer to the country's situation we live under. The Constitution. One thing that came across my desk last week that I wanted to share with you, it is the Constitution that makes us American citizens. It does not make our skin color, our race, our ethnicity, our language, any of those other definers that you hear tossed about to make someone other than an American is a problem because it is not true. You are a citizen of the United States. You are a citizen because of the Constitution, and you are not somehow a second-rate citizen because your skin is black or brown or blue, your ethnicity is Jamaican or whatever. And so anyone that would try to do that is trying to dissimulate and share false information. And so you need to be very much aware of that when you are listening to speeches and things of that nature, that a person, if they are a citizen, they're a citizen regardless of any other factor. So that would be the reason the Constitution is so vitally important to us, that we don't want things to change. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about I have mentioned this, I think, in passing. In 1787, the founding fathers had been now almost 7, 8 years without a constitution after the Revolutionary War had ended. It ended in 1781. We did not get a treaty with the British until 1783. But from 1781 to 1787, we had been operating under the Articles of Confederation, which was this very loose-knit agreement, and each country, each state or colony, was not yet a state until the Constitution. However, each colony was in effect a mini country. So these folks go back home, they set up their own governments, and during that 7 years, what's interesting is that they test out several methods of governance. And so when they come together in 1787, they have some results to talk about and to discuss. Some colonies had set up a unicameral legislature with two executive officers. In other words, they set up either a Congress or a Senate, one body, and they had two presidents. Others set up a bicameral or a two-pieced organization, Senate and Congress, and one leader. So that was two things that they had tried. There was a lot of other things on the plate when they discussed the kind of government. Benjamin Franklin found the governance of the Iroquois Confederacy, the Indian group in northern New York, to be quite interesting. They probably, and this is important, they probably had the only other true democracy in history other than Athens, Greece. So it was one man, one vote. Women had equal rights. Women could hold positions on councils. They could be chiefs or whatever. And that's one thing you find that's really interesting. I teach a Native American class, and one of the things we get to talk about is the fact that women could be chiefs, they could be leaders. They were greatly respected by their husbands and by the men of the tribe as people of great wisdom. You might also find it that interesting that Native Americans held people that were a little bit different in high esteem. Gay people, for instance, were held in very special esteem because they were different from the rest, and the Great Spirit had sent this person to their tribe for a reason, and so his word was of great value. So just in passing, to let you realize the differences. Each Native American tribe, there were about 338 different tribes at the time of Columbus, had their own language, their own religion, their own customs. They weren't a monolith. They weren't all the same. When you talk about Indians, you're not talking about anything. You're talking about you're grouping people together, just like you said, well, all white people all black people, all Indian people are this way. You're putting them in pigeonholes. That's an incorrect assumption on your part. Every person, there is variety, diversity in every people group, and we should honor that. We should respect the fact that people are different, and we should hold them in high esteem and appreciate their differences. I was born and reared in South Carolina, not far from where the school is located in the backwoods of East Etoy Valley. So far, you had to pipe sunlight in. I jokingly say I was born a redneck. I worked all my life to get over that, get over the ideas of race and things of that nature. And the thing that changed me most, the thing I recommend you do as a young person, is to travel the world and see what the rest of the world is like. When you come home, you will appreciate what you were raised in and where you came from a lot more when you realize that there are people that are much different than you. I spent the month of December in the Philippines living on a dirt floor and carrying my own water, no running water, no bathroom facilities, no shower facilities, 110 degrees and 100% humidity in the jungles. I spent the entire month there doing mission work. And I was reminded, I spent the 80s in the Philippines every summer doing mission work. And I was reminded just how blessed we are to have a floor in our house, or to have water, running water in the house, or shower, or air conditioning, all those things. But that most of the people of the world have that same diversity. And so you ought to be interested in that, that these are all the children of God. Every human being on this planet is made in the image of God. They have the Imago Dei image of God in them. And we should respect that. We should not let words come out of our mouth that would dissimulate that. The Bible says, from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. You ought to be concerned about what comes out of your mouth about race and things of that nature, because it tells you there's something in your heart that's not quite right, that needs to be taken care of. So anyways, they come together, they talk about these different things. Benjamin Franklin is at that meeting, many of the other elders. They talk about making George Washington a king and his family to be royal. And then they finally decide to do the model from Virginia, the bicameral legislature, 2 bodies and 1 leader. And so they actually place George Washington in the presidency for the first 2 terms, and he stays 2 terms. Washington does something very interesting and very good for the country. He, number one, resigned his military commission before he took the office of president, because he did not want a leader that had an army behind him, much as Caesar did when he took Rome and turned it into a dictatorship. It's so easy to do that when you have an army of people that want to make you king. It is really dangerous. We see some of that going on in our country today, and it's really frightful. But he served, so he resigned his commission. Secondly, he only served 2 terms, and they tried to get him to serve another. And he said, no, we need to see peaceful transition in this country. And there was never a problem with that until recently, that we ever have an argument over elections and transitions. Almost 200 years, the Constitution has made us a good people, has made us keep our word. So they formed the Constitution, and some of the people there were worried about basic rights like owning guns, religion. Religion was a huge issue, and it's now an issue again. Thomas Jefferson, who was the founding father that most people would ascribe to be a deist or an agnostic, I've studied him extensively. Jefferson, of all the founding fathers, wrote more on religion than any other founding father. He did attend services every week. He was a church attender, and he was much more about freedoms and enlightenments. And they worried that a state church, like the England had with the Anglican Church, would dominate the country and the freedoms and be prejudiced against other religions and faiths. And Jefferson mentions this group of Baptists in Danbury, Connecticut, write him a letter after he's been elected, and they write for a dual purpose. Number one, to congratulate him on his election. Number two, they are concerned because, unlike Adams and Washington before him, he did not call a day of fasting and prayer for the new administration, because he thought that was an invasion of the church into the state. And so he wrote to them this letter. It's very famous, in which he mentions this wall of separation between church and state that we hear so much about. That phrase was not unique to him. It was unique actually to Roger Williams, who formed the colony in Rhode Island, which was the first Baptist colony in the country. And so, but he did use that. That became the established phrase for us to understand that there is this wall of separation. Not that the church should not be important or the state should be important. They should not meddle in each other's affairs. And that became the interpretation that the later Supreme Court put on things, that there is this wall of separation, that the country does not have an established religion. You go back to John Quincy Adams, and the Supreme Court found that the United States is not a Christian nation. It is a diverse, pluralistic nation of many religions. That was always the understanding up until the present, and where that has been violently tried to be changed to make the country a Christian country, because they're pushing a doctrine of Christian nationalism. I have a new book coming out on that shortly, on From Christian Fundamentalism to Christian Nationalism, the dangers to America. And I believe that wholeheartedly, that it is a danger and one that you should be aware of. And so I want you to listen to the news and things of that nature. We work much better when we accept everyone's religion. That is their business. That is their decision. They have that freedom, just as you have that freedom. We don't have the freedom to force our ways on someone else involuntarily. And so that's important of the Constitution. It protects every citizen. It gives every citizen the right to have a gun, to choose their own religion, all those other things. Well, and so as they sent this Constitution out to be endorsed by the states had to vote on it, just like they do any preamble or any amendment to the Constitution has to be voted on by 2/3 of the states. And so they got most of them. Is a little slow. And so they added to it the Bill of Rights, which guarantee every citizen those things I just mentioned to you. So the first 10 amendments to the Constitution is what we would term the Bill of Rights. And so this document is very precious to us, just like the Declaration of Independence was to us. It's funny, a few years ago, they're cleaning out the attic at the Parliament in England, and they come across the original Declaration of Independence, which was sent as a letter to the King in 75. And we're going, oh my, it's our document. It's the original. It's precious. And the British says, oh, it's just a letter from a bunch of rebels. So that's a different perspective. Their perspective, our perspective are two different things on that one document. But our founding documents we hold to, for the same reason as Christians, we hold to the Bible as our rule of faith and practice. If you abandon the Bible, we abandon any reason we have to be calling ourselves Christians. By the same token, if we abandon the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence, we are moving away from that which the founding fathers designed for us. And we say, well, it's been 200 years, its times have changed, but that Constitution is a living document that is as much valued today as it was in 1700s and something. So I would love to hear your thoughts and your ideas about this. It's a very important thing that we talk about this week. So as you look at the Constitution, I want you to think about the precious nature of this, what it means to us for our freedoms. One of the candidates in the coming election wants to end the birther citizenship, where if a child came here and is born in America, even though his parents are not citizens, that child is immediately a citizen. They want to change that. We've used that forever, and it's worked. And so I don't see why we should be haggling over that now, because the fact of the matter is that we are in negative population decline. Most of the world is. Japan freaking out of the fact that they no longer have enough babies being born to pay their social responsibilities, and they can't change that. Or South Korea is another. Europe is another. Germany is literally bulldozing apartment buildings because there's nobody to live in them. And so the only positive numbers in Europe are Muslims moving north from Africa. And the only positive numbers in America, believe it or not, are illegal Hispanic aliens that come across the line. We're trying to run off the only population growth we have, so that there will be a time when there won't be enough people to pay your Social Security. You that are younger, it probably won't affect me, but it'll affect the next generation tremendously. So we depend upon people that work, people that pay taxes. So those are just a part of the things that it kind of shows you how the things we talk about in the news this morning are issues we're talking about in this course. And so I hope that it will prove to be of some relevance to you and some encouragement. Let me know what you think, and let's finish well. We're into the last 2 weeks, and let's do our best to do well. Thank you.